Ryan here, coming at you from the farmstead. R&M Speltz Farm here and Reef DVMs. You know, today we're talking about kind of an interesting project, insulation. I've got some R13 here and some bundles that I picked up from Menards. I use that for the 2x4 walls of a barn. And for the roof, I've got some R19, which is made for a 2x6 kind of area of a roof of a barn. Back in the day, we built a goat barn, this barn right here, and half of it we had insulated and the other half we didn't. And we would like to have the whole thing now insulated because we use it for chickens in the winter. And instead of going in and ripping out all the wiring, ripping out, because it's on the outside, of course, of the wood, ripping out the plywood and then taking down the vapor barrier which exists throughout the whole entire thing, I'd like to show you how we're going to do it with our farm hands. We're going to take out the screws on about half this building, save them all, and we're just going to unscrew the panels, and we're going to do this from the outside. I know it's an orthodox way of doing it, but the vapor barrier is already in place, the plywood's all in place, and all the electrical wiring's in place. So it saves a heck of a lot of time doing this. Matter of fact, 3 guys, and we're going to do basically a 12 by 12 by 12 area, 3 sides of it, because the inner wall is completely insulated. We're going to do it in less than 3 hours. And it's quite simple to do in this situation. So I'd highly recommend it. I mean, sometimes you can do it all from the inside, and that's perfectly fine. But sometimes with a pole building, you have the option of unscrewing it and doing it from the outside. So you can see the black vapor barrier there. You can see the opening under the roof. Now, we could take the roof off too, but there's no reason to. We'll just pull it through and make it work. It's a 12-foot distance. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure it, cut it, slip it behind the purlings and into the 2x4 wall right up against the vapor barrier, put it in tight, and make sure it sticks. It's a very, very simple way of doing it, folks. And all in all, we're out maybe $200 worth of insulation, and the place is insulated. It'll really stop it in the summer from getting too hot, and obviously it'll give it some help in the winter from getting too cold, and it'll make working with the meat birds in there a lot easier. So again, we have this side, we have the south side, we have the roof and the back side, but we're only going to take off the sides because we're going to slide the insulation in through the roof and make it work. It actually went really quick. I bought formaldehyde free because we're contacting it with our hands, even though we're trying to wear gloves. And, you know, we put it up really nicely, really fast. You have a vapor barrier in this situation. You don't have to use craft paper stuff. I do have the craft paper ones because that was the best price at Menards. So I'm going to put the craft paper right up against the vapor barrier side so that I don't end up with, you know, the craft paper on the wrong side, so to speak, and have issue there. But it went in really, really smooth. As far as undoing the steel, it goes really well. Just take off your corner cap and then start working your way down the row of steel. And, you know, as far as, you know, which direction the steel is on kind of dictates which panel you take off first. And then re-screwing it on, just be a little careful on how you screw it so you don't, you know, over-screw your screws and wreck your steel again, you know, putting it back up. Obviously, in our situation, we're using our DeWalt screw guns, so it went really, really smooth. I was very impressed. So even on this panel here where it's a little tight to the steel, because we didn't take off that last panel, we're able to squeeze it in behind it and get it done. This is what it looks like up close. And then for the roof, we just pushed through that, you know, R19 all the way to the other side, and then did the next one, did the next one, did the next one. All 6 of them went up pretty smooth. I mean, granted, we had our complications there at first, just starting to figure out how to push it through. We used a little bit of a rake to kind of get it in, but eventually it went through really, really smooth. We kind of got ourselves into a rhythm and got it done. Adding R19 to the ceiling, R13 to the walls is actually pretty good insulation on a 2x4 and 2x6 constructed building. So I'm real pleased with it. The process of getting it in and getting it laid perfect is not as tough as you think. It just takes a little bit of time. Now, in my situation here, again, the whole building was vapor barrier. If you didn't have a vapor barrier on this, what you could do is put the craft paper on the inside and go that route too. It just wouldn't be as complete of a seal, but it would certainly still give you quite a bit of moisture barrier. So that would certainly be an option for you. But again, this whole back of the barn that's not insulated is all vapor sealed, so it makes it a pretty easy project for us. And in in the world of fiberglass, obviously you have different types of foam. You have different types of fiberglass, formalin-free, not formalin-free. You've got different types of denim, and certainly you could even do this with blown. But the only reason I don't like the blown is because if you take the roof off ever to replace it, which we occasionally have to do due to hail, it flies everywhere. Certainly the denim is nice, but comes at a cost, and it's not itchy at all. This is a little bit itchy, but without the formaldehyde in it, nothing we can't wash off. So it works pretty good. All in all, I'm pretty pleased with it. You know, the rate that you can do this just depends upon how many people you have. In my case, I got 2 young, strong farm hands, so they're able to cut while I'm stuffing. They're able to help pull it through. They're able to take down steel while we're cutting panels. So that obviously made it go faster. It's about 90 degrees outside. It's hot here today. There's a nice south wind, but you know, we're dripping a little, but we certainly get it done. When it comes to a bigger barn and a bigger structure, do know that you can always buy, you know, wider batting too. So some people say to me, well, gosh, my barn's got 4-foot spacing between, you know, the studding and the purlins and stuff like that. Well, know that you can still get that too. So you can insulate those kind of barns too. So it's not like you can't do it. It just takes a little bit of effort. And by doing it yourself, you can save quite a bit of money. Because obviously there's no real labor rate other than your farm hands, and they were going to be paid to work for you that day anyways. So on our place, this was a good deal and a good way of doing it. And it went in really, really smooth. We didn't wreck a single piece. Now on the back side of the barn, we got a long culvert here, gutter I should say, but the culvert portion and then the downspout. So we did have to take that down to get into it. But again, same thing. It's 2x4 studded out. The side here, we had a couple electrical pieces that had to get loosened up and pull the cords to get in. But we got them in. We got the steel up around it. It went really, really smooth. So here it's all insulated. We're starting to put the steel back up. Just take our time, line it back up. I mean, we were actually able to hit 99% of the holes. I mean, I think there's maybe 1 or 2 screws that we couldn't find the old holes on because we just took our time lining it up. It went up really, really smooth. Because of that, I didn't damage any steel. I didn't hurt any 2x4s. Gosh, it went slick. And now we've got a front half that's insulated and a back half that's insulated. Now the front half has a furnace in it, so we can actually control temperature in the winter. The back half, we don't have a furnace, but we occasionally do use the Premier One heat lamps. And when you use those with some of your birds, they put out actually a fair amount of heat. So there's nothing wrong with that. But with this now being insulated, we won't lose that heat like we were in the past. The other thing is in the summer, sometimes when we're raising chicks, it gets pretty hot in there, and we got to ventilate it with fans. We got to open up the door. We've got a humidifier fan in there, so it runs on humidity, and it helps. Don't get me wrong, but this is really going to help because an insulated building doesn't let the heat from the sun warming up the steel get into the building, and that makes a huge difference. I highly, highly recommend that. Here it is. We're almost to the last piece. All we got to do at this point is just put the white steel on, and the building's back up and running 100%. Didn't even affect the birds on the inside. Didn't affect the electric or the fencers on the inside. That's all in this barn. Didn't have to worry about the furnace. No sawing of wood. No, trying to dig your screws out of the OSB inside for sheeting. None of that. Didn't even lose any of the vapor barrier. So working from the outside, I know is not typical. I totally get that, folks. But sometimes it's actually the easier way. I know it looks like a lot of work to take off all your ridge cap and your edging and take off your steel around a building. And maybe if you had to, even take off the roof panels. But gosh, it actually saved a lot of time in this case. And for a couple $100, we've now got a fully insulated building, which is going to make winter so much more enjoyable. If you got a barn like this and it wasn't insulated and you want to, certainly, obviously, if it's not finished inside, finish it from the inside. But if it is finished on the inside and it is a pole building with screws on it, star heads, hex heads, or bolt style, yank them screws off and make it work for you so that you can get it done. It's the best way of doing it. It really helps. It helps a lot. So at this point, we're just packing up here. We're going to save a few bundles and return those because I didn't even need them. We're going to put the ridge cap on. Once we get the ridge cap on, we're going to try to get the back edge put up and the culvert and stuff put up. You know, and then we're going to go from there as far as just using the building. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate it, folks. I hope this is a good way that helps you out in the future for how you want to put up insulation into your pole barn if the inside is finished. Thanks.